I don't know what's more exciting. Listen to this. It's not that crazy loud, right? And that's one of the problems with kind of Aston Martins to begin with, is they sound really good, but you don't really get a gauge for that sound inside the car. You only really get it outside the car. So everyone else is enjoying the noise on this car much more than you as an individual, the person that paid all the money for the car. But that's okay, right? That's not the end of the world. That's a good thing. That's a okay thing. I guess with Lamborghini you get the opposite. With Ferrari you almost get the same thing too. You just don't get that good of an experience in the car versus outside the car. Of course this changes significantly once you put the top down, if you have a convertible, and so on and so forth. But the new Vantage V12 is quite an interesting kind of concept for me, because it's DBS money, but it's not a DBS, and it's got kind of a big V12 in it, and it's got a ton of buttons and stuff in it, which I thought was also cool and everything else. But it's you know, just a Vantage with a big V12 in it. So the first thing I'll tell you is that it's incredibly comfortable on the inside. This one features the comfort seats, which last minute I decided we'd do comfort seats over the race seats, because the race seats look really good, but we didn't know how comfortable they'd be. So it was like, you know what, we'll do that. And since there's no real restrictions on selling these cars, it doesn't really make a difference if you keep it or sell it, I figured why not, right? The main thing with this car that you'll notice immediately is that it's incredibly fast, especially in Sport Plus mode. It's very, very fast. This was the same, and maybe it's not necessarily that it's that fast, it's that it feels like there's a lot of torque. And because there's a lot of torque, it's quite exciting. Like, it's exciting because in low revs, you still can have fun with it. And we'll look at the car on the outside later to really get the beauty of it. But on the inside, the comfort of it has always been something that Astons and like Bentleys have done quite well. But I would argue, you've seen that I own the GT Speed, the new one, the 22. None of these cars even get close to how incredible of a car that was, and yet they're the same price. That was a $350,000 GT with rear wheel steering, 700 horsepower, one of the most insane and incredible touchscreen setup ever, infotainment system ever, incredible sound. I mean, the car just superb, like the execution superb. This, on the other hand, also exciting. $350,000 is a lot of money for a car. A lot of money for a car, especially when it's not the premium of what that brand has to offer, and it's got a history of depreciating really fast. I mean, the steering wheel feels really good. The buttons feel kind of plasticky, but solid, like no problem there. Paddles, again, still not running a DCT in these, they're still running an automatic. Kind of feels okay. I know people have argued that, well, it's not really a real transmission if it's not blah, 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 but I mean, I think it's okay. Like, it sounds good, it kind of looks good, you know. See, even here you can kind of hear it with the windows up. So again, not terrible, but yeah, still very comfortable. Like, look, we go over bumps, we don't feel it that bad. You don't hear things rattle. So again, a lot of good to the car, especially driving, especially in traffic. I found that a lot of cars don't do that well when you go stop and go, but this is very drivable. But the whole time I drive it, I kind of think to myself, and I still get stuck on the $350,000 idea. Like, I just think it's just so much money for a Vantage. But I mean, how good it is, how fast it is, it's all subjective to what you're used to driving. Like, it's a lot floatier than a Turbo S, and it's 100 grand more than a really loaded Turbo S coupe, which I would argue is way faster than this, and is a lot more planted than this, meaning it's a much better platform than this. But this is also very rich feeling, smelling, sounding, and it is an Aston. It's not a Porsche, right? A Porsche is boring in essence. Even though it's a better product, it's still boring because everyone and their cousin has a Porsche. They don't have a Turbo S, but they still have a Porsche, and it's just so typical and blah, 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 blah. And I don't know, like, at least an Aston, you get an Aston, but in this case, I don't know how good of a thing it is because Porsche product has improved significantly. I mean, I would argue if this car came out 5 years ago, it would be way ahead of its time, but coming out now with the competition it has on the road with the Bentley GT, Speed, like, which is again the same exact price point, again with a V12 in it, you know, so is it really like that different? Better interior, same money. Then you have the Turbo S, much better sports car, less GT-ish. But then you have a DBS if you want a GT. This is a sports car. So this is the argument. I guess the issue with these cars is that they're losing their identity so much for one simple reason, is because manufacturers are trying so hard to appeal to all people all the time. And we see this with every manufacturer out there. It's not just one, but let's see how cool this is. Like, it's got potato power, you know, like it's got power, it's exciting. Like, it's exciting, it sounds good, like, but it's not as exciting as other things that also go really fast. You know, like, and that's the problem with identity. When a car doesn't have identity, you tend to compare it to other things a lot. Like okay, let's talk about the Ford GT for a second. Is it superb? No, it's really good, but it's not comparable to anything. So the experience is so unique to the Ford GT that, like, you really can't say, well, is it as good or as fast, or it doesn't matter because it's a Ford GT, and like the way it drives is Ford GT-ish, and it's exciting for that. And this is the problem with this. The problem with this is that it's just not like anything special. It's fast, yes, but so are other things. It's good looking, sure, but so are other things. It's got an incredibly smooth leather interior, but so do many other things. And it's got a good sound system and a good interface, but so do other cars. And it's not the best at anything. It's not the fastest, it's not the best looking, it's not the best experience, it's not the best driving, it's not the best. So at some point you go, well, what the hell did you build it for if you didn't try to do anything that was exciting? And I guess the argument is that maybe you just thought you could milk the Vantage just a little bit longer. And I guess maybe that's my biggest issue, is that we're seeing this a lot more lately. Listen, I bashed the crap out of the STO2. And that pissed off a lot of people because they were like, oh, the STO is great, it's Huracan made. Every stupid YouTuber out there talked about how the Huracan was literally STO was the greatest STO ever made. It's cool, it's got wide fenders. It's the same bullshit product they've come out 10 freaking times over. It's like they won't let it die. The car's dead, like let it die, and they're making 2 other variations of it. It's just stupid. Like, it needs to go away. It's just too many. Like, you had the Perf, great, then you had the Evo, no problem, then you had the STO, and it's over. Like, go away. No, we're gonna make a Technica, we're gonna make this, we're gonna make that. Like, at some point you look at it and you go, I can't even compare an STO to a Technica because one's so much better in one way and the other one's so much better in one way. Why couldn't you make a great final product? Well, you didn't, and that's the argument. And the same argument goes here. Like, the buttons are really hard to read. Like, and they're hard to, like, everything looks the same. So, like, look, your lock buttons and your, literally your little, like, lights here are here in this second row. Then the top is your AC menu. Then you have 3 knobs here, which are similar to every car. And then you have your little buttons for heated and cooled seats. You have so many freaking buttons in the same place and they all look the same. It's just like a Mercedes. I was driving an S63 this morning, a coupe. It had all the same garbage here, a bunch of stuff, and everything does something. But it took me literally 5 minutes to try to figure out how to turn off the AC. I was like, I don't understand why I can't just press a button and have no AC. Like, I wanted to have the windows down. I couldn't turn off the AC.
It took you like 10 years to upgrade your computer?
No.
Yeah, okay.
I appreciate you saying that and ruining my video now by just saying that what you're saying is that the amount of buttons here are not too many, but what you're saying is my retardedness is basically what is preventing me from functioning?
No, Mr. Fetchbig. I apologize, sir, to your video.
So, yeah, anyways. Back to what I was saying, too many buttons, clearly too many buttons doing too many things, and not enough organization and excitement. But I think from a drive standpoint, it's definitely fast. So if you want a fast car that's basically stuck between being a 911 Turbo S or being a GT, is kind of does that really well. Like, it's kind of stuck between those two identities, but in a way, I guess it's different. So if you're willing to spend 150,000 more than 911 Turbo S to go slower, but look cooler, but you're willing to spend the same money just to have something different than a Bentley GT Speed, could work, you know? Could work. I mean, for 350 grand, I can think of about every other car that costs 350 grand that's better than this. But anyways, let's take a look in detail in the car and see how exciting it really is from a design standpoint and functional standpoint. I mean, you have to kind of appreciate it for what it's trying to do, because it's incredible. When I first heard about the Vantage V12, you know, I told to myself, I said, okay, well, what do we know about Aston Martins? They depreciate like crazy, so probably a bad bet. Then they said they're limited, and I was like, how limited? They said 333 cars. So I said, okay, that's not that many, that's cool, but is there really a need for 300 cars? Like, does that make it really limited if it's not that much of a wanted product? And then they said, listen, it's the best product we've put out in a long time, it's going to do really well. But I said, you know what, since I had ordered a Valhalla very early in the game, this and the Roadster version of this were kind of given, like no-brainer cars that were given to me. So I said, you know what, we're going to order one anyways, and I decided to do this incredible green on tan interior to commemorate like the ideology of British racing green slash, you know, lots of carbon fiber and a race car. And one of the most incredible things about this car is that it's really large in the front, like it really is. And overall though, the car isn't that large, so it's kind of got these really weird proportions. So I don't know if I love it or hate it, because I haven't had it long enough to really get used to it and see how much I like it. I can tell you that they did a beautiful job with this piece right here. This fender, the way the carbon interacts with it, and it kind of goes out, really good job. You can see that we got all carbon options. Here you have everything carbon exterior pack, carbon mirrors, carbon roof, even the carbon spoiler, carbon diffuser, everything, right? Premium wheels. The only thing I didn't do in this car were the actual race seats. I did them in the Roadster version that's gonna be coming soon. So on the outside, you're looking at probably one of the highest loaded spec possible Vantage V12 coupes, and this was a $360,000 sticker, and that is where it gets a little bit scary. Is there really a lot of clients for Aston Martin Vantage bodies in that range? I mean, we're talking about 765 money. I mean, you know, like you start to get up there, there's a lot of competition, there's STO competition, you know, like, so I mean, I don't know, you know, from a value standpoint, I really don't know how I feel about it. From a design standpoint, I think it's beautiful. I don't know that it's stunning, but it's definitely up there. Some of the features I want to point you out to that I think are pretty interesting and cool. The doors kind of open up similar to the old Vanquish, which is really cool. And this car, again, has all carbon options inside out. The only thing that really wasn't spec'd here are the race seats. These are the comfort seats. They're more usable, but you can see the interior feels rich. Now, if you've never owned the new Aston Martin, I can tell you the first thing that's the most exciting part about an Aston. You ready for this? The rich smell of British leather. It's that mahogany feel where you know you're richer than every one of your friends. So when you step into your car and your friends jump in and you say, do you feel it? Do you feel poor right now? Well, that's because we're sitting in my British Aston Martin. So the interior, very much DBS style, like the new Superleggera. You'll notice very similar. Doors, buttons, trim, carbon feels really good. One argument I've always had about this Vantage in general is too many buttons. There's too many buttons, and we can thank Mercedes for this. You can see the Mercedes keypad and influence, and I hate it. I hate the buttons. There's just too many. The thing with the seats in the inside here, I think that's brilliant. That's been an Aston Martin thing for a long time. All the temperature here, near impossible to see anything because it's all hidden under. But again, like, okay, just too busy, too many buttons, doesn't make sense. Steering wheel feels good, very similar to DBS, same buttons with the sport, the suspension. Car sounded great, you heard it earlier, amazing. You have room here for your cup holders, you can actually use them, which is good. Alcantara suede headliner, of course. no back seats, some trunk room, which is pretty decent. But again, nothing out of the ordinary here that really pops out as exciting and amazing, despite this being a new platform or anything else. It feels very much like just a richer version of something that's 3 times cheaper. And that's the problem. Like, the distance between the V12 and the V8 is significant. Remember, you can buy a used V8 Vantage now for somewhere around 100. This is like almost 400, so like, you know, it's like super brutal. I want to also point you to this specific trunk here, because I think the back design is really beautiful. The wing and the top, very heavy, but nonetheless, still there. Good trunk space, easy to use. If you have a couple of bags or you're going somewhere, sure, very easy, very simple. You can also see the beauty. The one thing I want to point out, you can see the beauty of the carbon. Again, very well done, and the taillights, fantastic. This is a very pretty car when it rolls. You know, the issue with this car as a whole, it drives really well. It really does. It was almost the same argument I had when I got my first DBS. So I think it holds true, because I don't think this is a problem with the particular car. I think it's a problem with what the car is trying to do. So when Aston went to Mercedes and basically started this collaboration, their product became a lot less refined and a lot more like in your face, meaning like the interfaces. First off, we knew Aston tech was absolute horseshit. It's now better because it's owned by Mercedes, meaning the tech is all Mercedes crap. The part with Aston that just doesn't connect with me anymore is it has lost its British identity. Its British identity was very flawed before. You could clearly say it was a flawed, like the Vanquish was flawed. It just was flawed in so many ways, but it was so good for what it was. But here was the other argument. Was it really good at 370K? Or was it just good because it depreciated to 130K and it was so much value at 130K? And that is the thing with Aston, is that this is so good, but not for 360K. Like, it's just good for like maybe 180, 200K. Because once you go into this 350, 400K range, I mean, even a Performante is better than this. Like an old Performante for 300 is way better than this. Like, way better. A 458, I would argue, is more iconic than this. A 488 is more iconic than this. So the issue with this car is that no matter how special it becomes in the sense of it could be the last V12 out there or not, I don't know that this matters, because it was never good enough or iconic enough to make a significant impact in the automotive world. And while I think it's pretty and I think it's cool, as you saw in the drive, it's exciting, it's unique, it's just not enough for the price point. And for that reason, I highly doubt it's gonna stay here very long, because we're gonna have to get rid of it, because I just don't see the collectability value. I don't see the fun factor enough compared to other cars that are here to really keep it and want to drive it. And I guess that is the issue. When you have choices like me, you don't have to have this. But here's the argument. When it's 350K, I don't think anyone has to have this. And I think that's the problem when we think of the new Vantage V12 Coupe. It's beautiful, just not good enough for the MSRP. And I think we'll see these things tank just like we saw the DBS tank. And I think at that point, we're just gonna look at it and say, look, the DBS tanked, and now it's good value in the 200, maybe 190K range. And I think that is good value in that range. And so that makes it even harder to enjoy this value at 350K when you can buy DBS V12 that is a better car for 250K now for a convertible, or 200K for a coupe, which is almost half the price of this. So special or not, there are some product that just won't bring in what that product's worth. And I think if this car launched 2 years ago in the middle of the pandemic, and people talked about the car market being the only thing that'll be worth millions of dollars later, then someone would have probably bought this in the 400K range. Today, unfortunately, I just don't see it. So there you have it. If you want to learn more, again, click the link in the description and learn how to hack your way in and out of exotics so you don't have to lose money. Again, no worries about depreciation, no worries about cost of use, no worries about insurance, no worries about getting loans or anything else. Click the link and learn why car hacking is reshaping the entire world of individuals who literally own exotic cars. And of course, join Exotic Car Hacks, 20,000 plus members waiting to network with you in our community. Link is also there for you to do. And of course, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and put in the comments. Let me know, keep it, sell it, it's gotta go, it's gotta stay. What do you think of the new V12 Vantage in its highest trim possible for $350,000? Worth it? Not worth it? I'll catch you next time on another video for Exotic Car Hacks.